So we did our quick write about our favorite smells. No, all they can see is my screen. So we did our quick write about our favorite smells. And for those of you working at home, this is what our prompt looked like today. What is your favorite smell? So we are actually going to move over to our smartboard stuff. Let me pull that up here. There we go. Can we see it? Probably not. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to make your paper look whenever you are doing your Word Nerd. And we're going to talk about how that looks, and then I'll come back and talk about today's assignment. We'll catch you up on the Word Nerd stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so we talked about how your Word Nerd section should look, that it should have your name, the week, and number your stuff. It's got to have a word. It's got to have a part of speech, a definition, and you need to use it in a sentence, okay? Because it's not about memorizing a specific vocabulary list. It's about learning how to use those fancy new words, right? We like to use new words because they make us sound more photosynthesis, right? Okay. All right, so let's take a look. Whew, Jax, you all right? All right, let's take a look at today's project. This is the week when we're going to start our band book project. And if you want to take notes, you can. You don't have to. If you want to jot down some words that you see that we don't know, you can do that too. If it gets dark enough, you can see that my shoelace is buttoned in the dark. All right. So, why would a book be banned? Any ideas?
Because it has violence in it, or I got bad words.
It can have bad words. It can have violence. It can be kind of inappropriate, right? You know, I've been reading through the Sequoia book list. Hang on, there's like a lot of hands up. We're gonna have to hold on, or we're gonna have homework. Okay, so I've been reading through the Sequoia book list, and I gotta tell you, some of the books make me kind of uncomfortable sometimes. Like, I'm fine. I'm an adult. I'm almost 40, so you know I can do these things. But if I were 13 and I was going through some of this, these would be kind of hard to read. So heads up on that. But let's take a look at why some of our favorite books have been banned. We're going to talk about some of the books that have been banned for some crazy reasons and some for decent reasons. And some books that maybe that was a good reason to ban it when I was a kid, but maybe now it's not. Or maybe there are some things that were allowed when I was a kid that maybe I wouldn't want my own children to do. Like, you ever watched an old movie with your parents and they realized, like, in the middle of the movie, like, whoo, I forgot about that part.
Yes.
Okay, Goonies, 100%. Totally forget about the dead guy, right? So, totally forget about the Goonies. We watch it with our youth group, our young youth group, like 4th through 6th grade, okay? We're like, oh, let's watch the Goonies with them. It'll be great. Everybody loves the Goonies. Our older group loves the Goonies. What can go wrong?
They found a dead body in the house.
6 parent phone calls later. Remember, maybe should have kept that one for the high school group, right? So, what is Banned Books Week? Banned Books Week actually takes place next week. It's not this week, it's next week. But we're getting a jump start because we are going to read banned books. Hey, the ALA's Office for Intellectual Freedom, that's the American Library Association, has a specific office just to make sure that we have the freedom to read. The librarians have a specific group just to make sure that we get to read whatever we want and our First Amendment rights are protected. That's pretty cool. They track attempts to ban or restrict access to books across the United States and inform the public about censorship efforts in our libraries and schools. Censorship. Cash. It's the blurred out stuff, right? Like on the TV, whenever you have captions and it's like got a bad word and it's like, right? Attempts to remove library materials continued during this pandemic, even though a lot of us were having to read ebooks and libraries were closed and schools were closed, we were still kind of having to fight with, like, is this book appropriate or not? Banned Books Week is an annual event celebrating the freedom to read. It spotlights current and historical attempts to censor books in libraries and schools, and it brings together the entire book community in shared support of the freedom to seek and express ideas. So what makes somebody a part of the banned book community? Is it because I have on a shirt that says, this girl loves books? Does that make me part of the hood?
Yeah.
No.
Do I have to be an English teacher or a librarian to be part of this hood?
No.
What do you have to do to be a part of this community? Free. Easy peasy, right? You already know how to do it, so you're there. And I like this e-card that said they can have my books when they cry them for my cold tips. That's how I feel about some of my books. But not all of them. So let's talk about the books that do get challenged. Do you think that there are lots of books that get challenged?
Yeah.
There's like a lot, right? The ALA's Office for Intellectual Freedom tracked 156 challenges in 2020. Y'all, we were supposed to be home playing Fortnite. Why are we banning books? Why are you, dude, like,
No one's reading books and playing Fortnite.
thank you, right? So out of the challenges, those 156 challenges, they affected 273 total books. The office also noted a focus on demands to remove books that address racism and racial justice, or those that shared the stories of Black, Indigenous, or people of color. So to give you an idea, that amount of books, 273, is like roughly what's on those 4 shelves over there. So that gives you an idea. All those books, bam. Miss Woolridge's heart cries. My husband whines because he spent all that money and nobody can read the book. Right? Okay? But out of this, 73% of the things that were challenged were books and graphic novels. 3% were social media. 1% was a movie. So what is a challenge? Let's go. Right? No. A challenge is an attempt to remove or restrict materials based upon the objections of a person or a group. Now we know what the word challenge means, right? Of course, we know that word, right? But in this instance, it's got its own kind of like tweak to it, okay? It's not just something that's hard or someone that you go up against, but it's specifically removing or restricting materials from a library. What do you think about that? Do you like that? How about, have you ever been like, we can't go out and play because so-and-so can't be quiet in class? Remember that?
Yeah.
We all have to sit on the wall because so-and-so talked in the lunchroom after Miss Johnny said to be quiet. Everybody been there?
I hated that.
That's the worst, right? Well, what if I told you you can't read a certain book because so-and-so's mom said they can't read it?
That's kind of stupid. That's stupid.
So, how does a book get banned? How does a book get banned?
We're having customers
Violence.
and other stuff like violence or stuff that's very inappropriate.
Yeah. Well, it can be banned for stuff that's inappropriate. It can be banned for a lot of reasons, right? But there's like a whole process to it. It's not like I can just come in and say, hey, I read this book and it kind of stinks. This book is terrible. Let's ban it. I can't go to Miss Thompson and say, listen, I challenge this book because it was boring. No. Okay? The process of banning a book usually begins with one person who is issuing the challenge, and it's usually a parent or a librarian. A challenge is an attempt to remove or restrict materials based upon the objections of a person or a group. And that's according to ban and challenge books. A challenge is the beginning of a process towards getting a book banned, which means that many challenges fall through. So just because it's been challenged doesn't mean it got beat down, right? Okay. The case is reported to the American Library Association, but it doesn't ban the books. It just tracks it. So it's up to the schools, bookstores, and libraries to decide which one they're going to ban. So a book might be banned at Dale, but it might not be banned at like Oklahoma City, right? So because we have different communities and different situations going on, right? It might not be a relatable book for us to read about gang violence, but if you live in a bad neighborhood in Tulsa, would it maybe be more appropriate? Or Chicago? Okay? So it's up to the schools, bookstores, and libraries to ban books. If you don't stop crumpling your bottles, then Sarah can't hear. Sorry, Sarah.
Scream.
Okay, once a challenge is made, the institution can either ban the book from the premises or deny the challenge. Bans are done on an institutional basis, which means if a book is banned in one library, it's not necessarily banned in every library. So let's talk about these things. Do you think it's fair for a book to be banned because it has a bad word in it? Or does sometimes does the bad word add to it? Sometimes it's appropriate, right? Like if the whole book is like a Snoop song, then that's inappropriate, right? But like, I read Roller Girl and it's got a bad word in it, okay? But it's funny, and it adds to the story. It explains why the little girl who's named Astrid doesn't like her bully because her bully comes up with a nickname that goes with her name. Just drag out one of those letters and then they go, okay, there you go, Jillian got it. Okay? It kind of adds to the story, right? So, but some people wanted to ban it, and some people wanted to censor it because of that, okay? It can be banned for one of these official reasons. These are the official reasons it can be banned. Racial issues, encouragement of damaging lifestyles, blasphemous dialogue, sexual situations or dialogue. So if it's like dirty, we don't want it in elementary, okay? Violence or negativity, presence of witchcraft, religious affiliations, especially unpopular religions, political bias, or age inappropriateness. So there might be a book that's like, maybe not so good for the elementary side, but we can put it on the high school side. And then those of you who are in middle school that are pretty savvy, that might be a good book for you. But if it's maybe like, not yet, then you gotta stop censor, right? But now that somebody told you you can't read it, don't you really want to read it?
Yeah.
Yeah? So, let's talk about these books that were banned. These are books that historically have been banned. Let's see what we think about it. How about Little Red Riding Hood?
I understand why. I understand why. I understand why it's banned.
Very bad.
Okay, so there's like a lot going on in Little Red Riding Hood, right?
Yeah, I understand why they banned it. Yeah, because it was pretty graphic at one point.
It can be pretty graphic, right? I'm trying to get this little bubble to be out of the way, but it just like, it won't. Okay,
Put it in the very top corner.
yeah, let's go top right. Go to your spot, little dot. No, over here.
Yes, I'll do you.
Sit in the corner.
Go to your home.
Laura, what?
Okay, let's talk about Little Red Riding Hood first. A traditional classic tale, Little Red Riding Hood, was banned in the town of Empire, California in 1990. Y'all, that's recent. Okay? Ironically, it was not because of the reasons you would think. It was not because of the innuendo of the wolf luring the little girl into the woods and dark and kind of shady, sketchy stuff, or even the aggressive cunning wolf, or the gory attack on the grandmother, or the fact that they hack open the wolf. None of those reasons. This particular book version put a bottle of wine in Little Red Riding Hood's basket.
Oh my God.
Non-orc died.
No.
Killing a wolf. A singular
None of those reasons. None of those very gory reasons. Use the wine because there's wine in the girl's basket.
It wasn't high school.
Okay, so let's talk about our next book. I heard the reactions to the Little Red All right. Well, Seuss also faced the same adversity that climate change activists face today. Seuss was ahead of his time in that. But in fact, the Lorax was banned in many schools in California due to fear that children would protest the mass logging. And logging in California is big business. That'd be like if we had a book that promoted the banning of oil.
So,
How would we feel about that in Oklahoma? We'd probably ban it, right? But it's a large part of our income as a state. So in California, logging is a huge contributing factor to their income, and Seuss's expectation of the future was a little unnerving. This one you probably haven't read. It's called Entango Mystery, and it's consistently banned. And we don't have it in our current library, but you can get it from the public library. It's a story about two penguins in the Central Park Zoo who raised a chick together, but the problem with the book is that they were male penguins. I know. Others have said the book is based on one of those subjects that is best discovered by students in another time or place. So I don't think, it's not necessarily that the book is bad, but I think some of this is age pretty gory.
It's pretty gory.
Okay. But it's not gonna be about memorials. Well, let's see why they banned it. Okay? Hush for a second. Okay, besides being a great book and a young adult classic, The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins is one of the most commonly banned books in American high school. It's been banned due to insensitivity, offensive language, anti-family, anti-ethic, and occult. And in 2014, inserted religious views was added to that list.
Oh my God.
I really feel like as a reader, I would really have to stretch to find those inserted religious views, personally. But that's my Miss Wooldridge as a person opinion, not my teacher opinion. Okay? But you guys had some great reasons too. There's a lot of violence in this.
Mine gory.
It is really gory.
How about the Captain Underpants? He didn't have on no pants.
I don't know into my house.
What? Was Winnie the Pooh ain't wearing pants? Mickey Mouse, I don't think even. Oh wait, Mickey Mouse has pants.
Mickey Mouse doesn't wear a shirt.
Yeah, he's so. Okay, well, here's the story behind Captain Underpants. Now, please have you remember that when your mouth is open, your ears are closed. Don't let keep it down. Okay, parents say in complaints filed to the Office for Intellectual Freedom that the illustrated books contain offensive language that is unsuited to the series' target age group of elementary school age.
I feel bad for these
What happens when these kids get gas, bro? Do they have to go to the bathroom every time they need to? Jeez. And the first book in the series even comes. Now, Dave Pilkey, he recognizes. Listen, I'm not for everybody, okay? I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I ain't tacos. I can't make everybody happy, okay? So his first book in the series even comes with a Sturgeon General's warning that says, some material in this book may be considered offensive by people who don't wear underwear. So he even pokes fun at it in his first book. Now, more recently, Pilkey had a little bit of trouble with one of his books. He's the author of more than 40 books, but he said The Adventures of Ook and Gluk, Kung Fu Cavemen from the Future kind of went a little far. So it was first published in 2010, and it was pulled in from retail and library shelves recently. He says, it was brought to my attention that this book also contains harmful racial stereotypes and passively racist imagery. It was and is wrong and harmful to my Asian readers, friends, and family, and to all Asian people. Because he kind of stereotypically portrayed those who were doing Kung Fu, and he was like, you know what? Sometimes I make mistakes. Is that important to acknowledge, though?
It's funny, but it was also kind of
Well, it's funny, but maybe when we stop and think about something, you know? So, remember when somebody tells a really inappropriate joke in class and it's kind of funny, but then, somebody who doesn't have a mom might not appreciate that your mom joke? You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. But it's important to realize as readers and as writers that sometimes things change. And as consumers, how many of you really loved cheesecake when you were little?
I still like it.
I love it. How many of you didn't really learn to like cheesecake until recently?
Oh wait, actually no, that's me.
Hey, so my husband did not understand that cheesecake was a sweet thing.
What?
That was cheesecake.
Cheese.
Yes. So Bob didn't try cheesecake until I think after Ella was born. Because he thought it was going to be gross. So we would have been almost 30, right? He didn't try cheesecake because he thought it was going to be gross. Because cheese and cake do not go together, right? So, but once he tried it, you can't keep that fool out of Cheesecake Factory, okay? Because sometimes we have to realize we were wrong about something, and we have to make a change. Sometimes it's about our cheesecake, and sometimes it's about our book.
I've never had cheesecake.
Okay, moving on. Hey, The Giver. How many of you have read The Giver? Just real quick. Okay. The Giver's social critique has resulted in controversy and multiple attempts to ban it. Lowry includes mentions of sex, infanticide, suicide, starvation, and euthanasia in order to show the power of the book's main themes successfully. and individuality. So when they kill the baby, when they send the people to elsewhere, all of those things are like a little too much for some. Yes, sir?
This was about the two wives come from hand and not thing.
Because nobody's mom has yelled about it enough yet.
I'll yell.
So, the first notable banning case was in California in 1994. Parents complained of violent and sexual passage, and the book was temporarily banned. Side conversations need to stop. Okay. In 1995, parents in Montana challenged the book due to the infanticide and euthanasia, and the school required parental permission before reading it. In 1999, Ohio and Florida parents added in sexuality and suicide. The book was also challenged in 2001 in Colorado because the father believed that those types of books sow the seeds of school shootings by encouraging suicide and disregard for human life. After a long debate, now listen, that dad challenged it, but after a long debate, the school decided to keep it. Now, what you need to know is that in the late 1990s and early 2000s, school shootings were rampant. And Colorado was one of the first places to have that. And so the dad was saying, like, we have to stop this. We have to eliminate everything that could possibly create a problem. Yes, Jack.
What is euthanasia?
Euthanasia is putting someone to sleep. Like when your dog is old and you put your dog down.
Yeah.
Bro, way worse books than that.
Right?
I still like banned.
Well,
Some read
some of us might feel like I read way worse books than that. That's part of that self-censoring that we're learning about. That's the point of doing this project. Yes.
You know, some people really don't like the Winnie the Pooh show because some people think all the characters represent the 7 deadly sins.
That would make sense.
That would make sense.
Okay, I'm following that, but I'm not with it.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's Disney said,
Okay.
Disney said that they are present like that.
That will represent a mental illness. Okay. But also, 7 deadly sins also near.
They said it was also
Okay. Guys, we have to refocus. This has to stay on the topic or you're going to end up with homework. And that's us. Right? Okay. So, listen, I know we have big reactions to this, but the point is not like, let's go down rabbit holes and talk about our favorite books. I'm here for it. I love that rabbit hole. But the point is, now that you are exposed to all the books in the library, you can check out everything in elementary, you can check out everything that all the high school seniors can check out. It's important for you to learn how to self-censor. Am I right? Now that you have wide open access to the internet on your phone, can you visit any website you want to?
No.
Technically, okay, technically, you could, but do you have to know, like, some things are not okay?
Yes.
Okay? You have to know these things, and you have to know, like, hey, my friend said something and it's kind of not okay and I need to tell the grown-up. You have to start learning these things so that when you're grown up, you can make good choices for your kids and for yourself. Okay, let's take a look at our next book.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
What doesn't make sense, though, to me, I didn't quite get this one, because it's not about hiding from the Jews necessarily, or hiding from the Nazis necessarily. It's not necessarily about the danger that she's in. But remember, to Anne Frank, she was a 13, 14-year-old girl stuck in a closet with 5 other people. This was not something she was writing to have read, but it was something that she wrote to help herself cope, right? Like, how would you feel if we took, it was like actually her diary, right? She comes back from the dead, she's gonna be like, yo, why'd you read my diary, Dad? Right? And so her dad published it, and he took out something from it. But then there's like that kind of self-discovery thing you go through in middle school, and that's a lot of things that are in there. One complaint from an Alabama school in 1983 wanted to reject it because it was a real downer. So I was excited to learn, though, that the ALA has the 10 most far-fetched reasons to ban a book list. And I went down that rabbit hole. That's a pretty good one. So how about this one? Fahrenheit 451. Have you ever heard of this book?
No.
Oh, break my heart.
Sounds like a bomb.
Okay. Well, Fahrenheit 451, I read it in the 8th grade, but reading it back now, the vocab's too hard. There's a graphic novel version that I love. And you know I'm not a big graphic novel person.
What's it about?
Just a second, I take my headache. Okay, so Fahrenheit 451 is one of the classics. You'll read it in high school because Miss Robbie and I have this fight every summer, and I always lose, and she never lets me have the good book. But the book is about, you know who Ray Bradbury is? The sci-fi writer. We're gonna read some Bradbury, so get excited. I like him. Okay, but in the book, the main character is a fireman, and his job is not to put out fires, but instead to burn offensive material. So the firemen come and collect books. The policemen come behind them and arrest those who own books, because thinking is a dangerous pastime, you know. Right? So this one gets challenged quite a bit, and here are some reasons. The school district in Santa Rosa County, Florida is standing by Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, despite a complaint from an irony challenged parent. Do you remember what irony is? It's like when one thing happens, but it's the opposite of what you expect. This is a really great example of irony. I don't know if you're going to get it yet, but maybe next year. Okay? So, irony is like, I was trying to be safe by wearing my seatbelt, but instead my seatbelt broke my ribs when I had a car accident. Okay? Irony, right? Okay, so this parent demanded that the cautionary tale about censorship be removed from the 8th grade curriculum. Superintendent Tim Wersadok said that a review committee assessed the book and decided it was an appropriate option, given that students can always choose an alternative reading assignment. The things that she wanted you to read instead of a book about censorship were like The Giver, whole things about censorship and control. Hunger Games, whole things about being controlled by the government. But in the best part, one of her suggestions was 1984. 1984 is written by George Orwell, and in it, he basically predicts Alexa and talks about like the government is always watching you, Big Brother's always listening, all these creepy sci-fi things. You should read it. It's amazeballs. I'm looking for a graphic novel version of it. Sonia McCall Strahu filed the challenge in October, complaining of the book's use of profanity and God's name in vain, as well as mention of sex, drugs, suicide, of murder, and abortion. They left out rock and roll. According to an article from the Northwest Florida Daily News, McCall Strahu became aware of the content only when her daughter asked for the definition of a word. Now, if I'm going to challenge something, don't you think I should be educated about it? Yeah. That's like challenging, I should not wear a mask because they're ugly. Or I'm not going to get the vaccine because it will hurt. Okay? I mean, challenge those things. That's good. It's good to challenge that. But it's also good to research so that you know what it is you're talking about. And in that vein, the ALA requires in most places, schools, libraries, that would ban books, will require that you actually read the whole book. Okay? So like you gotta watch the whole movie The Goonies before you can ban it, not just the dead guy part. How about this one? Shakespeare?
I've done it in
Shakespeare is like, that makes sense. Okay, what do you have to add?
A man of Florida robbed a windy foot crocodile. A live crocodile is threw in the window. Look, right? I need more about that.
So we need to be learning about how to self-censor ourselves, so we learn how not to throw crocodiles in the windy. And so you learn not to say bad words when that guy throws a crocodile at you. Okay. Hey, you know what? Crazy things happen when you work in fast food. I once had a lady try to return her tater tot container that was empty because they were cold. Okay? She threw her tater tot container out of her window at the Sonic at me, and she said these were cold. And I was like, man, you ate them all. All right. This is about Twelfth Night. It's a classic play about a girl who washes ashore after a shipwreck. Oh, Ariel. But she disguises herself as a boy. And it was banned in New Hampshire by a rule entitled Prohibition of Alternative Lifestyle Instruction. Which means that the teachers in the district are forbidden from discussing homosexuality in the classroom. The plot line in which Viola, dressed as a boy, falls in love with Duke Orsino would be inappropriate. Now, did you read the whole book? You see what I'm saying? Like, This one, if you read the whole book, you would realize that homosexuality doesn't fit because it's really a girl dressed as a boy. So it's really heterosexuality. She likes the dude, right? So female likes male. That's not. So that's one of the reasons why we ask people before you ban something, could you read the whole book? Jack's not the dog. And also, we want you to make informed decisions as people, as grown-ups, as readers, as people who have access to all the things on the internet, right? So we don't want you to just make a choice because of one scene. We want you to read the whole story, because if this parent had read the whole story, put those together probably. I mean, it's Shakespeare is probably still super inappropriate, but you can put that together. How about Where the Wild Things Are?
That should not be banned.
It's too scary, bro. Judy B. Jones. Judy B. Jones is a banned book because she has bad grammar. And it's
Oh my
God.
She has first grade. What are you expecting? That's so
Hey, Barbara Park's Judy B. Jones series was challenged because of its poor grammar, punctuation, and often disrespectful attitude. However, it's wonderfully told from the point of view of a kindergartner trying to figure out the world, usually the hard way, and it's usually pretty funny.
It is hilarious.
Maurice Sendak's picture book faced many opponents immediately after its publication in 1963. Readers believed that Where the Wild Things Are was psychologically damaging and traumatizing to young children due to Max's inability to control his emotions and his punishment for being sent to bed without dinner.
That's his dream.
Y'all, I asked my mom about this, who was born in 1962. You know what she told me? I got sent to bed without dinner all the time.
My dad
Touch her mouth. Okay, I don't know where she gets it from.
Dude, it's just about a kid's dream. And then the
Psychologists called it too dark, and the book was banned largely in the South. It's also been challenged several times for its images of witchcraft and secret. Which leads me to think that, what about Harold and his purple crayon? He goes to the moon? That's unrealistic. So what are we supposed to do about it? You gotta fight for your right to library, folks. Now, I really like this meme, so it's on here. Okay? I don't know about you guys, but telling me not to do something makes me really want to do it.
Yeah.
Like when someone's like, I bet you won't eat that hottest sauce at Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Wait, listen now, because this on. Okay? Get the ice cream ready. This is going down, right? I don't know if it's just because I grew up in a house full of boys and that's just how it is. But that's the way I am. How about you guys?
I'm very
Always on like Donkey Kong. Yeah. I was like 9 months pregnant with Ella and I ate that hot sauce.
If I don't beat you at something, I want to break it.
I don't know what it was. It hurt. I went home. That was not a good day to be a fat pregnant lady, okay? That's what I can tell you.
It burned my tongue for like an hour.
Right? I don't like to be told what to do, and it's my experience that middle school students don't really care for it either. Fair?
Yeah.
So let's break the rules and let's read some banned books. Okay?
Adult being book.
See, the thing is, you can tell when something doesn't feel right. Right?
Yeah.
You know, like when you're walking along in a parking garage and you gotta go to the doctor's office and it's like dark and creepy, and you just don't feel right. You got to learn to trust that feeling. You know when the girl's walking in the scary movie and you're like, girl, don't go outside in your pajamas, something don't feel right. Okay? You've got to learn to trust that feeling, and so that's why we're doing this. Okay? We have to learn to self-censor so that no one does it for us. You have to learn how to sit quietly in a class so your teacher doesn't have to get on to you the whole class, right? And just like that, we have to learn how to self-censor. So here's the plan. Oh, we'll go over the plan tomorrow. You have a great day. Yes, baby.
Most of Shakespeare's